Good morning and welcome to the session on corporate governance from Naipunya Business School. The, the session is on corporate governance, University of Calicut. The syllabus is BUS 4C 22 and myself Dr. Jacob PM, Director, Naipunya Business School. Syllabus Module 4 Part 2 is the 9th of the series of a 10-part lecture on corporate governance, semester 4, Master of Business Administration, University of Calicut. Today we will be looking at corporate governance and business ethics, corporate governance and corporate social responsibility, corporate governance and the role of media in public policy and corporate governance, role of government, role of regulators, financial reporting, details to be reported to external parties, whistleblowing mechanism in corporate governance. So, corporate governance and business ethics. Now, if you look at corporate governance, one of the main reasons why corporate governance came into existence is due to business ethics. There is not much of difference between corporate governance and business ethics. In ethics are basically philosophical and morally decent standards that a corporation attempts to stand by, while corporate governance are the methods or the process by which a corporation attempts to remain as ethical as possible while still making profit. So you will find that corporate governance and business ethics goes hand in hand. Now, corporate governance refers to the methods and business ethics refers to the policy or the philosophical and morally decent standards. Now, corporate governance and ethics form a culture of trust between all the stakeholders, and this will be included in the ethical principles, which are accountability, responsibility, transparency or openness, competence, integrity, and benevolence. Ethics play a very important role in the prevention of fraud. If you look at the majority of the scams or the frauds that have happened worldwide, it is all due to the business ethics which has been sacrificed by the companies. So corporate governance and business ethics looks into fraud prevention, and it is shared responsibility among the different members of the organization, its stakeholders, and its shareholders also. Now, corporate governance represents a moral framework. The ethical framework represents the value framework under which an enterprise takes decisions. In the long run, ethical behavior will definitely have a positive impact on the company's performance as well as governance. Now, what are the ethical behavior which is expected from a corporate? So, broadly speaking, I've discussed a few, but there are others also which can be definitely be considered. One, rights and equitable treatment of shareholders. There are different types of shareholders in a corporate. Majority can be there, minority can be there, promoters can be there. Now, the organization should respect the rights and rights of shareholders and help the shareholders to exercise those rights also. For example, one of the rights of the shareholder is to vote on decisions, and the corporate should see to it that the shareholders are able to exercise those rights, like voting. So that is the reason why we have e-voting. Okay. Now there are interests of other stakeholders also. Now one of the stakeholders in a corporate is basically the workers. So organization should understand the right of workers and see to it that they are following those legal obligations. There are several other interest for stakeholders. I am not giving other examples. To just give an example, I have included actually workers. Then role and responsibilities of the board. The board has to see that that they should have a range of skills to understand and deal with various business issues, especially happening in the industry as well as in the environment, and changes which are happening in the compliance policies also. And this is actually the one of the responsibilities of the board to be not to be biased or not to be along with the management in getting things done or with the bankers. So the board has to become has to take actually a neutral view, or not actually a one-sided or a lopsided view. Another one is disclosure and transparency. Organizations should clarify and make publicly known responsibilities of the board and the management to provide shareholders with a level of accountability. I think last last video we have been discussing regarding the remuneration of board members. Now that is one of them: disclosure and transparency as well as remuneration, so that the investors will know as to how much money is being spent on them or how much money is being given as a remuneration. Then another one is like integrity and ethical behavior. Organizations should develop a code of conduct for the directors and executives, right from the CEO onwards, and they should have a code of conduct as to how they should behave, or they should promote actually ethical and responsible behavior as well as decision making also. So you would find that ethics and corporate governance goes hand in hand. And some of them have been already been represented here, but there are several, like rights and equitable treatment of shareholders, equitable treatment towards employees, interest of other shareholders. So many are there. Compliance with the law and regulations as far as the corporate is concerned. So these are all basically talking about the ethical behavior which is expected from a corporate. Now, we'll try to understand the relationship between corporate governance and corporate social responsibility. Now, any corporate which exists cannot exist on its own. It has to have the support from the community also. So naturally, when corporate governance is there, it has to respect actually the views of the community also. So views of the community, when you accept the views of the community and do something beneficial for the society or the community, then you are actually implementing corporate social responsibility also. Now, corporate governance is ensuring that an organization is run in a responsible manner towards different partners, stakeholders, even to the community, and even towards the government also, by ensuring accountability, transparency, and compliance as far as the stakeholders are concerned. As I've already told you, it can be community, it can be investors, it can be employees, it can be the government, and all these people are basically they are the people who take care of actually take care of the organization to see that it is winning in profit. At the same time, it is accountable towards all these. Now, corporate governance is the whole set of legal, cultural, and institutional arrangements that determine what publicly traded corporations can do, who controls them, how that is exercised, and how the return and returns on the activities they undertake are okay. Whereas CSR is a corporate form of self-regulation, integrate to the business model to create a positive impact on the stakeholders as well as the environment also. And both CSR as well as corporate governance goes hand in hand. Especially in a country like India, where corporate social responsibility is protected by law, companies have to do a lot of things. And they are by obligation to comply with the regulations of the government also. So here, finally, what we can find is that corporate social responsibility should be integrated into the business so that they produce activities which are social and environmentally friendly, and the interactions will definitely have a positive impact on the stakeholders. Thereby, the stakeholders of the company also are satisfied. So that is what the whole issue of corporate governance and corporate social responsibility. Now, another group of people that we need to, the corporate governance should be there is actually the media. Media is again, especially in an era where media is getting a lot of importance. Corporate governance should also look at what the role of media is. Definitely, media can do a lot of support as far as corporate governance is concerned. Now, especially when you look at the scandals like Enron, like the WorldCom or Harshad Mehta scam, or several scams which has happened, it was all because of the interference of the media which has come to light. Many of these scams came to light, because there are a lot of regulatory bodies, and other than that, we have media also doing a lot of trying to find out as to what is happening in a company, whether the company is on right track or not. And if it is not, they come out like a whistleblower and talk to the government, or maybe expose these scandals across to the public also. Now, this public interest, the public interest has resulted in continued media coverage for corporate scandals. But at the same time, there are also situations where it has been doing some damage also. So media should actually play a proactive role in governance mechanism and to see that managerial self-interest is curbed. For example, media attention to CEO compensations increase, and the annual list of best and the worst CEOs and corporate boards are published in prominent media outlets right now. So we understand how organizations perform, and definitely this is going to have an effect. Now, the best CEOs definitely you will find the branding will go up, investors will be interested, and they will put in a lot of financial support or otherwise supports also to see that the organization is growing. But at the same time, worst CEOs also will see to it there is a negative branding which is happening. So media coverage has also been has an influence over corporations. As a result, they do not venture to do frauds. But however, media should play a very critical analysis on issues happening in a company and bring it to the notice of the regulators also, so that the corporation and the manager will act in appropriate ways. Now, the role of government in corporate governance. Definitely, there has been a lot of issues which has happened over the past several years, especially in India. We talk about Harshad Mehta scam, Gold scam, Satyam scam. There are a variety of scams which has happened in this country, including Sahara. All these scams. What is the role of government in corporate governance? Mostly, the role of government in corporate governance is to see that uh, the, the, is to see that there is an upgradation as far as laws and regulations of corporate governance is concerned. Here, actually, the government should not look in within; they should also look outside the country also to see what is the type of frauds which are happening. Because Enron scam happened in US, and a similar type of scam happened in this country, which was called as the Satyam scam. Both of them were similar. Had our government taken steps to see that, like what are the steps to take, see that all these steps to see that the disclosures have been done on time, definitely that scam could have been prevented. However, we have right now SEBI and other regulatory bodies also, which look into the regulatory framework and continuously change situations or compliance or laws and rules to see that the corporations are aligned or complying to those things. So we have actually the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India, which regulates corporate affairs in India through Companies Act 1956, which is now updated in 2013, and other allied acts, bills, and rules also. Then we have the Serious Fraud Investigation Office, which investigates serious financial frauds also. Then we have the Company Law Board, the Company Act of 1956, which has the power to regulate its own procedure. Registrar of Companies, which is formed under the Companies Act of 1956, with the primary duty of registering companies and ensuring that such companies comply with the statutory requirements under the Act. Securities Contract Regulation Act of 1956 covers all types of tradable government papers, shares, stocks, bonds, debenture, and other forms of marketable securities issued by companies. Securities Exchange Board of India is one of the best landmark as far as India, biggest landmark in India, was the basic function is to protect the interest of investors in security, at the same time ensuring corporate governance also and developing the securities market. Enforcement Directorate, which takes care of actually foreign exchange, FERA violations or Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and the Depositories Act of 1996, which is established to share and securities depositories and created the legal framework for dematerialization of security. Now you will find that all our shares or securities are found in digital format. So it actually prevents people from or corporations from creating certain underhand dealings also. So that is also there. And apart from that, we have SEBI, excise, due excise or central excise, the customs, all those organizations also see to it that the corporation is acting justly and it is complying according to the rules and regulations and the law and the act of this country. Now, what are the role of regulators? Principal Simple one. Conduct of business should reflect principles that promote transparency and fair markets and are consistent with the rule of law. So that is the first one. Whatever the business that they do, they should promote actually transparency and fair markets regarding competition or even any of those things which are consistent with the rule of law as far as the country is concerned. Principle 2. Members to protect the rights and ensure equitable treatment of shareholders, including voting process, annual general meeting requirements, and rights to disclosure. So disclosure is another one that rollout regulators should look into. Measures to have. Principle 3. Measures to have a framework on the role of institutional investors. We have different types of investors also. We have institutional investors, bankers, financiers, even FDI also. Foreign deposit is also there. So FDI also, you will find the foreign institutional investors also we come into the play, and they should also be able to invest in our company. At the same time, they should be protected also. At the same time, they should also see to that it should also see that they also comply according to the rules and regulations of this country. Principle 4 recognizes the rights of shareholders established by law or through mutual agreement and encourages active cooperation between the company and the state. Principle 5 recommends timely and accurate disclosure of financial situation, performance, and ownership whenever there are changes. All those things have been there. Whenever IPO is declared, this information should be available. Principle 6 addresses the responsibilities of the board. This has come of late, because after the Satyam scam, where board members did not actually act in good faith, and now we address actual responsibilities of the board. So board members are also expected to act in good faith and exercise diligence and skill in their fiduciary capacity. Provides for the establishment of board committees, different types of board committees that we have seen, audit committee, risk committee, different types of committee are there. Then provides for the establishment of board committee, business ethics, regulation of conflict within the company's interest and that its directors and its officers. There are issues even in some of the corporates where the promoter's interest is not honored. That also happens. In that case, the promoter will not be happy about it, and it will also prevent actually future companies to come forward and operate in this as far in this industry. So that also should be there. That board of directors should not have any conflict, but at the same time, board should always have a neutral view. They should not be biased to either towards the management or biased or against actually the management. They should always show a neutral view, and they should be able to recommend to the company about what are the risks which is happening and how it can be prevented. Now we go to the listing agreement, which has come from the SEBI. So what does that listing agreement is something that we will be looking at for all the listed companies, where all the companies which has been listed on the stock market. This clause 49 of the listing agreement provides for the following: Board of Directors. The directors shall comprise of such number of minimum independent directors as prescribed. This has been, this has been repeated a number of times. Please remember this. One-third of the board shall comprise of independent directors, provided the chairman of the board is a non-executive or independent director. Whereas, if the chairman of the board is an executive director, 50% of the board shall be comprised of independent directors. So that is one of them. Second one, a relative or a promoter or executive director shall not be regarded as an independent director. So if there is any relationship between the promoters, he cannot be considered as an independent director, but can be considered only as an executive director. Audit committee. The audit committee to be set up shall comprise of minimum 3 directors as members, 2/3 of which shall be independent. So out of 3 members, 2 of them should be independent and 1 can be the executive director also. Then disclosure requirements. Periodical disclosures to the financial and commercial transaction, remuneration of transaction directors. Similarly, what are the fees that is paid to audit firm, etc. should be disclosed to ensure transparency. CEO, CFO certification, that whenever financial statements are sent, definitely that will come through a committee, but the CEO and CFO should accept responsibility for any of these statements or internal control systems. Report and compliance. A quarterly compliance report to stock exchange signed by the compliance officer or CEO, either one of them, CFO or CEO, to disclose compliance with non-mandatory requirements in annual reports. I'm sure when we studied about about the Birla Committee, we have found non-mandatory requirements also that also should be taken into context. Financial reporting details to be reported to external parties. Now, financial reporting should provide essential financial information about the company to its shareholders and other stakeholders should be reliable, free from bias, and should enable comparison on the basis of common benchmarks. So, financial reporting should always be updated, and usually the financial details financial compliance will be renewed by the by the Chartered Accountants Association, Indian ICAI, or ICS. Both of them will be renewing, and just to be seen, the financial reporting should be according to the details which are given by these associations, or either the Chartered Accountant Association or the Company Secretary Association. The board of directors has the primary responsibility for the corporation's internal and external financial reporting functions. So, board has to look into all this, internal as well as external, especially the audit committee will be looking into that. The chief executive officer and the chief financial officer should oversee the internal accounting systems and are dependent on the corporation accountants and internal auditors. Code accounting standards are applicable to Indian enterprises with view to harmonize the diverse accounting policy. Now, Indian enterprises applicable to all Indian enterprises there, but however, now we look at internationally also because there are foreign investors also. So we have to comply according to those things. So when OECD has come to this country, we and the World Bank, we also follow right now accounting policies which are international in nature. So that also has to be taken care of. We have in fact gone towards international accounting systems also. To reduce the risk of fraud, financial reports must be audited by an independent external auditor who issues a report that accompanies the financial statement. Now we go to whistleblowing. Whistleblowing is a very important part as far as the corporate governance is concerned. Under 1779 of the Companies Act, India has come out with a whistleblowing act also, that it is mandatory for every listed company to establish a vigilant mechanism for directors and employees. Whistleblowing is very, very important, and many of the scams and frauds which have come out is only because of whistleblowing. It can be either from the employee who can directly approach the audit committee and inform them of board and inform them about certain irregularities which are happening. And whistleblowing has been also revised in clause 49 of the listing agreement, so the company must establish a whistleblower mechanism with adequate safeguards against victimization of whistleblowers also. Because if it is an internal whistleblower, an employee, maybe they may not be protected. So that also should be taken care of as far as whistleblowing mechanism in corporate governance. So whistleblowing in corporate governance is that whistleblowing should have hotline, drop boxes, etc. should be there to see the confidentiality of the whistleblowers protected. Once a whistleblower complaint is registered, it needs to be evaluated to understand the severity and dealt with by the most appropriate department. Then identified and transparent investigation protocol should be followed for perceived effectiveness of the mechanism by stakeholders. And the four key tenets in place for appropriate whistleblowing policies are: one, protect and anonymize the whistleblower. We should be able to protect the whistleblower as well as keep his identity as anonymous. Give fair hearing to the alleged wrongdoer. So it should not be biased. So even the wrongdoer also should be given an opportunity uh, to share his side of the story. Ensure swift legal action. It should not be delayed, and deliver immediate corrective action. I hope you all remember the hot stove rule in HRM. So whistleblowing policies also should follow similar to that. Okay, so as a result, the corporations should not actually create any irregularities or fraud or scams, so that investors' interest be protected. So I hope you have understood with the two parts in 4, 1 and 2. We have seen actually the regulatory mechanism which is prevailing in India. Also, the other mechanism that I have described, right from ethics to corporate social responsibility to whistleblowing, and the laws and act in place to see that the regulatory framework is strong in this country. Corporate governance acts on these regulatory mechanisms, and it is essential that all these things stay in place so that we have a very good corporate governance and ethics in corporate, and the frauds and scams will get reduced. So thank you very much for being with me. If you have got any clarifications, you can write to Naipunya Business School, myself, the director, and or otherwise you can even send an email. These are available in YouTube also. You can subscribe to our channel. And if you have any clarifications, you can always send a mail across to me at hod@nbnevent.ic.in. So thank you very much. Looking forward to your session on the last session, which is module 5, and welcome you all for that session also. Thank you very much.